सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। चैतन्यं सर्वगं सर्वं सर्वभूतगुहाशयं यत्सर्वविषयातीतं तस्मै सर्वविदे नमः। सोपादिश्चैवमात्मोक्तः निरुपाख्योऽनुपाधिकः निष्कलो निर्गुणशुद्धः तं मनोवाक् च नाप्नुतः। चेतनो चेतनो वापि कर्ता कर्ता गतो गतः बद्धो मुक्तस्तथा चैकः अनेकः शुद्धोऽन्यथेति वा। तदेवम् अवस्थात साक्षितया विविक्त शुद्ध चिद्रूपस्य आत्मनः विविक्त शुद्ध चिद्रूपस्य आत्मनः। So Atma, there is thus vivikta, separated, avasthatraya sakshitaya. By recognizing that in all the three avasthas, the waking, the dream, deep sleep, Atma is just sakshi, the indifferent witness, uninvolved witness, that's what Atma is, and therefore Shuddha Chidrupa, ever pure of the nature of consciousness, Karya Karanatmaka, Mayopadivashat, Jnatrutva, Kartutva, Savajñati, Savajñatvadi Vyavaharaspradam. So Mayopadivashat, you can say Karya and Karana, if they are taken to be the adjectives of Maya, then you can say Avidya and Maya. Karya Vidya can be said to be the Karya Maya Avidya and Karana. So Jnatrutva, Kartutva, that is the result of the Karya. The Maya at the level of individual is Avidya, ignorance, can be called Karya. So the effect of Maya, ignorance, which is where the Atma is thought to be Jnatrutva, Kartutva, Jnata, Karta, individual. And Karana, Sarvajñatvadi Vyavaharaspadattvam. Because of the association of Karana Maya, He is called Sarvagnya, Sarvakarta. So all of this is the Vyavaharika Rupa of the Shuddha Chit Swarupa Atma. The Svabhavataha, that this is not the essential nature of Atma. He is taken to be Karta, Jnata, Sarvagnya, Sarvakarta on account of the Upadhi, of which the attributes are superimposed upon the Atma, and therefore Atma is thought in this manner. Kim tat svabhavikam bimatulyam atmarup swarupamiti. So this is like the pratibimba. The karta, jnata is pratibimba. Sarvagnya, sarvakarta also is pratibimba. And that pratibimba is that influenced by the attributes of the reflecting medium like Maya or Avidya. So kim tas svabhavikam rupam, what is the essential nature which bimbas, bimba tulyam, bimba, so that which is comparable to bimba, bimba sthaniyam. So what we appreciate is pratibimba sthaniya atma. What is the bimba sthaniya atma, of which this is expression? Sopadesya atma evam atma uktaha. So far when you say that atma is karta jnata, or is sarvagnya sarvakarta, sopadhi, it is from reference to this upadhi. Anupadhikaha. But we cannot use these words, any such word as karta or jnata or sarvagnya, sarvakarta. No word, even nitya, shuddha, buddha, mukta. Atma nirupakya, which cannot be described by any words, even nitya, shuddha, buddha, mukta words also cannot quite describe Atma. What is the reason why? Nirupakya, that its vyakhya cannot be done. It cannot be described in such and such. Niskalaha, nirgunaha, shuddhaha, because niskalaha, partless, nirgunaha, qualityless. Shuddha means this entity does not lend itself to being described by the words, will be explained. Tam manovakcha na apnodaha, that the mind and the speech have no reach to Atma, who is of this nature. Meaning that the mind or the speech cannot objectify. If speech objectifies, then entity can be described in words. If mind objectifies, an entity can be described also as a thought, as a feeling, or as an object. So that is why the reason. So what is the justification for you to say that Atma is nirupakya, cannot be described as such and such, because so many notions obtain about Atma. Chetanaha, achaitano vapi, karta, akarta, gato, gataha. So we will think Atma is Chetana, conscious entity, Achetana, unconscious entity, Karta, Akarta. Atma is Karta Hokta, Atma is Akarta. Meaning Vedantins also use the word Chetana. Vedantins and others also call Atma Chetana as conscious being, conscious entity. Akarta, it is that there is no doership in the Atma. Baddho mukta, some will say Atma is baddha, has to be made mukta. Mukta, Atma is nitya mukta. Ekaha, some people say that Atma, Vedantin mainly, that Atma is one in all the being. Sarvabhuta guhashayam. Anekaha, Sankhya, and Vaisheshika, all the Atmas are many. Shuddha, Sankhya, all this Atma is Shuddha. Anyasayati, Ashuddha. And so these are the different conclusions that people have about the Atma. So then, continuing with the next verse, 31. अतः विप्रतिपत्तेः अयथाभूत आत्मात्र गोचरत्वात् आसमर्थौ शब्द प्रत्ययौ Shuddhatmani iti aha. Therefore. Why therefore? Vipralipattehe. Because of these various concepts that we have. And so, various conclusions, notions, concepts that different people have about the same entity, namely Atma. Ayathabhut Atmatra Gocharatvat. So, Shabda Pratyayo is the Kartru here. Shabda Pratyayo. So, Asamarthau. Shabda, the word, and Pratyaya, the thought, corresponding thought, Asamarthu, the incapable of Shuddhatmani. The Shabda and the Pratyaya, the word and the corresponding thought or a concept cannot reach Atma, cannot objectify Atma, cannot become Atma, their object. So, aprapya vedi. So here the Tikakara says the fact that so many diverse views obtain about Atma, so there is no conclusion, meaning Atma cannot be concluded the way they are trying to conclude. So usual approach is to understand anything by Shabda and Pratyaya. So you appreciate or experience something, the Pratyaya is generated, you try to express it in Shabda. Oh, something is described in Shabda and you try to understand that. So why no concept? Not possible about Shuddha Atma. Upadika Atma, yes. But not about Nirupadika, Anupadika. So verse 31 says, Aprapyaiva nivartante Vacho dhivis sahaivatu Nirgunatvat kriya bhavat Visheshanam abhavatah. So first line gives you proposition, pratigna. Dhibhihi saha vachaha aprapyava nivartante. The translation, anuvada of this famous statement. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasa. Taittiriya Upanishad. Vachaha yataha manasasa nivartante. Vachaha nivartante. Vacha is the kartru. The speech or the words, nivartante, return back. Manasasa, along with the mind, along with the thought, because the thought and the words always go together. Vag and artha, they always go together. From where yataha nivartante, that from which they all return without reaching it. So they said in the first line of this verse, Dhimihi vachaha aprapyava nivartante. Sahaiva. So dhimihi saha vachaha. Or vachaha sa. So dhimihi saha vachaha aprapyava nivartante. Along with dhi, along with buddhi, along with mind, or the concept. Vacha, the words, aprapyava, without reaching the nivartante, they turn back. Without reaching. Na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vag gacchati, na manaha. There the chakshu and vani and mind have no reach. The second line gives the reason. Nirgunatvat, because Atma is nirguna. Kriya abhavat, because Atma is nishkriya, devoid of kriya. Visheshanam abhavata, because Atma, in Atma there is abhava, absence of Vishesha or attributes. So these are the reasons. Atma is devoid of these, that is the reason why Atma is not available for being described in words or thought of in the mind. So Tikakara says, Katham Atma, Atma praptihi vacham dhyam rishet. So explaining the first line, Katham Vacham dhyam atma prapti or atmana prapti. How come aprapti? It is not reaching the atma, vacham of the words, dhyam of the thoughts. Iti chet. So what is said in the first line? Why is it so? If that's a question. Paramathatha pravrutti bija abhavat. So pravrutti bija, pravrutti nimitta, for the words or the thoughts to be able to engage into something, they require a reason. What is it? Jati, kriya, guna, vishesha, sambandha, rudhi. As will be explained. So words can describe something that is jati, like a brahmana, kshatriya, something that is born and therefore is distinguished from other things. Kriya, words can describe something that is active, like a driver, like a cook, like a teacher. If something possesses guna, the qualities, like good, bad, right, wrong, or red, etc. Some vishesha is there, some distinctive quality is there, some attributes are there. Sambandha, something is related. Then Raja Purusha, the standard examples. He's my cousin, he's my uncle. So that way someone can be described in words if that entity is related. Or if it possesses a traditional name or conventional name. So popular name, Devadatta. So Devadatta is Rudi. That's just people call him Devadatta, call him Vishnu Mitra. So that's called Rudi. So conventional name. Any entity which has any one of these qualities or qualifications will lend itself to being described in words, and when something can be described in words, it can also create a corresponding dhi or concept. So these are the nimitta. These are the reasons why a thing lends itself or makes itself available to the reach of the words and the thoughts. See, this is not so in Atma, therefore, Atma cannot be described in words or thought of by the mind. So the second line is nirgunatvat. Rupadi gunahinatvat. So Atma doesn't have redness, rupadi, color, smell, etc. So Rupadi gunahinatvat, ashabdam, asparsham, arupam, etc. So because it doesn't possess any colors, qualities, Bahyendriya dvaraka dhivihi avad atma na prapyate. So dhivihi tavad atma na prapyate. Because atma is devoid of guna or qualities. Therefore, the mind cannot have reached towards atma because indriyas cannot have. Basically, sense organs cannot reach or cannot objectify something that is devoid of qualities. The sense organs have their field of approach or field of objectification with reference to those entities which have gunas or qualities. Understand that mind only can think of whatever it is that can be objected by sense organs. Or the knowledge of mind ultimately comes from the knowledge of sense organs. Since sense organs cannot have a reach towards Atma, that is Nirguna, so mind also cannot have. So says, Bahyendriya dvaraka dhivihi. Dhi, the concept, the thoughts which are dvaraka, which have their dvara or the reason for Bahyendriya, meaning the mind when it reaches out through the external organ, sense organ of perception, then only a thought can take place. So when can a thought take place in the mind? Only when the mind comes in contact with an object. When can that happen? When the sense organs contact that object and then mind comes in that contact. That's how a thought corresponding to the object is created in the mind. If sense organs do not have a reach in an entity because nirguna, so mind also doesn't have reach. Why not? Manasascha bahyendriya dvara upalabdha vishaya atirekena swatantrasya vishaya anurupanat. Because the mind cannot independently contact any object without the agency of the organ of perception. Without the agency of sense organ, the mind cannot independently contact or come in contact with the object, gross object. So, bahyendriya dvar upalabdhi vishaya. Only when an object is vishaya, the object upalabdhi, which is known by bahyendriya, external organs, sense organs of perception, that vatirekana, without that, swataha, swatantrasya vishaya anurupanat manasaha. Mind cannot independently conceive of an object without contacting that object through the agency of external organ or organ of perception. Tadagocharam atmanam tanna prapnoti. Atma, who is indriya agochara, is beyond the sense perception. Therefore, mind cannot also reach Atma. So, nirgunatvat. Second is kriya abhavat. The verse says, kriya abhavat atmanah manogocharatva abhavah. Atma is nishkriya, inactive or actionless. That's another reason why the mind has no reach in Atma. Nahi kriyahine anavachinne vastuni. So if thought can take place, this is the Vaisheshika Prakriya. Kriyahine anavachinne vastuni kriyavat anugati matren apurva dharmopajani sambhavati. The Vaisheshika says that the mind, the Atma requires the contact with the mind to become a conscious entity. Then only the mind can have contact with the Atma, mind can think of Atma, or mind can think of anything for that matter, because Atma by itself is unconscious, according to them. And Atma gains consciousness by coming in contact or association with the mind. But can Atma have association with the mind? That's the question. Kriyahine anavachinne vastuni, like space is example. The space is kriyahinam. There is no kriya, no activity, and therefore no vikriya in space. Anavachinne, and therefore there is nothing to limit that space. Space is limitless or boundless. Kriyavat anugati matrena. Then, for example, here is the part that moves in the space. Looks like part space also moves in the space. But space being what it is, cannot have any association, contact or effect of the part, the movement. So kriyavat, so anavachinna, because space with anavachinna means that which is unlimited. Kriyavat anugati matrena. So this part is kriyavat. Means part is possessed of activity, movement. Anugati matrena. It may look like the space also follows the part, The part space seems to follow the part. Anugati matrena. Just because the space seems to follow the part doesn't mean that part can have any impact upon the space or any contact with the space. Na apurva dharma upajani sambhavati. They say that Atma is unconscious by nature. Apurva dharma, the consciousness gets created in the Atma when it comes in contact. So mind is active. Even the Atma may not be active, mind is active. And therefore, according to Vaisheshikas, when Atma comes in contact with the mind, then apurva dharma. The consciousness that is not in Atma, janihi, that is created. So this is their argument. Vedanta says not possible. Atma is aparichinna, like space. So things may move in the space, but space cannot be affected by them at all because space itself is actionless and therefore boundless. So similarly, not the unconscious Atma becoming conscious, that apurva dharma, that new dharma, cannot be created. This doesn't make sense. Ghatadi anugade gagane tadadarsanat. We find that in gaganam or the space, no apurva dharma. Something new is not created when the parts, etc., the movement of parts in the space, no change happens in space. So when the mind moves in consciousness, Atma, why should something happen in the Atma which is aparichinna? Tasmad manasyogaja jnana asambhavadati. Therefore, as they claim, jnanam happens because of manasyoga. That kind of thing is not possible. So the jnana which was not there happens now, that is not possible. The manasavi prapya atma. Therefore, mind also cannot reach atma because mind can have no association with atma. Mind which is sakriyam and limited cannot have any association, contact or influence upon atma, which is niskriyam and which is boundless. So this is the jati, kriya. The kriya is described. Guna is described nirgunatvad. Kriya is described, so kriya abhavat. Tatha similarly, visheshanam, so visheshan. Godhana rupanam, bhashyanam, swagatanam va jatyadiram, pravrutti nimittanam. So other things that pravrutti nimitta, other things that make an entity available for being described in words, or being thought in the mind, are other nimittas, other reasons are there, like visheshanam, so godhana rupanam, bhashyanam. So then you are possessed of godhana, for example, so therefore, so Devadatta is a dhanavan or something like that. That's how the bhashya visheshana can be there. Swakatanam jati or Devadatta is a brahmana, which is an internal visheshana like jati. So this is what make an entity available for being described in words. So if internal, the vishesha is there, such as jati, the brahmanatva, etc., then that person is available for being described in words. Or external vishesha, they possess dhanavan, kirtivan, etc., then all is available for describing words. So these are pravrutti nimitta, meaning that they are the nimitta or cause for pravrutti or application of words and therefore the mind. Abhavat, na shabdopi. So mind cannot reach, no words also cannot, because words require this nimittas. Mind cannot, because only way the mind can reach an entity is only through the external sense organs. Since Atma is beyond the reach of sense organs, therefore mind cannot have reached towards Atma. Or mind has no contact with the Atma also, therefore also mind cannot reach the Atma. Then how about the Shabda? So, Shabda Nimit Pravrutti is Jati, Kriya, Guna, Sambandha, that is the Pravrutti Nimitta of Shabda. For the mind, the Nimitta is the contact of the mind with an object or with an entity through sense organ. Or contact with the mind in any way. Mind can be contacted by Atma, so that is not possible. So neither through external sense organs, nor internally Atma, mind can come in contact with Atma, therefore Atma is beyond mind. For Shabda you require this, again, same Guna, Kriya, Visheshana you require for Shabda also. So no external Sambandha is there, no internal Jati is there. The Shabdopi prapnoti atmanam. Therefore, Shabda also has no reach in Atma. Tatacha Shrutihi yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa, as we explained. Na chakshusha grhyate napi vacha nanya devis tapasa karmanava. Mundakopanishad. Na chakshusha grhyate. Atma cannot be grasped by chakshusha, by the eyes, meaning the organs of perception. Nabi vacha cannot be grasped by speech, means organs of action. Nanyahi devai, by no other devatas, no other sense organs. Tapasa karmanava. You cannot reach Atma by tapas, nor by karma. So that is this passage from the Shruti says how Atma cannot be reached or cannot be grasped by the organs of perception or organs of action. If Atma cannot be grasped by organs of action or perception, it cannot be grasped by the mind, because they are the only doorways for the mind to contact any entity. And also very clearly said that mind, speech along with the mind, returns from the self. And that being the case, people try to describe in words, in indescribable words, or people come with some concept of Atma which is beyond any concept. Avishayasya Atmana katham Vedanta Vediniyatvam. Because Atma is there for Avishaya, not the object of the words and the thought. Katham Vedanta Vedaniyatvam, then how is Atma, how does Atma become Vedaniya, known by Vedanta? Because Vedanta also is words only. So Vedanta also communicates Atma through words. Like Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam Brahma, Vijnanam, Anandam Brahman. This is how it describes. So, Vedanta is also Shabda Pramanam. So, if Atma is beyond the reach of Shabda, then how can Vedanta make you know Atma? Tashankya Lakshana Vartmanaya Abhipretyaha. It's not stated, but Abhipraya. Next verse doesn't say that clearly, but it says that it's not Vachyartha. The immediate meaning of the word that can describe Atma is Lakshyartha, the targeted, implied meaning or intended meaning. So that's what you understand. That's how Tatpara Nirnaya has to be done of the words of the Upanishads. So next verse is Vyapakam Sarvato Vyoma Murtai Sarvair Viyojitam Yatha tad vidahatmanam Yatha tad vidahatmanam Vidya Shuddham Param Padam. Vyapakam Vyoma Sarvaihi Murtaihi Vyojitam. Same example. So Vyoma, the space, Vyapakam, all pervasive, therefore formless. Sarvahi Murtahi, therefore with Murta means those things having form, tangible entities. Vyojitam, meaning it cannot be united, cannot be contacted by them, can be connected by them. Paricheda Pratibhasa hetu Upadhivarjitam. So even though one may have this notion about space, so people come with notions, part space. So that's the notion entered in about the space. But Paricheda Pratibhasa, so space appears to be limited to a part because of the upadhi of the part, meaning that the limitedness of the part is superimposed upon the space and space thought to be part space. But Sarvaihi murtaihi so viyojitam. The space is viyojitam, unconnected to any murta, any kind of forms. Vyapakam swarupadha parichindam cha. So number one, space is beyond the contact with any tangible form, and by itself, vyapakam swarupadha parichindam, by itself is boundless. Vyoma. Yatha, that's the example. So then, second line says, Yatha goes with first line. Tadvat iha atmanam vidyat shuddham parampadam. Tadvadeva, in the same manner also. Shuddham avasthatra upadi vyojitam. So just as Vyoma is also murtahi vyojitam, Atma also avasthatra vyojitam. Atma, that is unconnected to all the three states of mind. Avasthatra sakshita, then you call it avasthatra sakshi. So to show that Atma has no contact or association with the three states, Atma is said to be avasthatra sakshi, the witness of the three avasthas. That's our description. So even Sakshi also, the witness, is Lakshitam. Even the word witness also does not describe Atma in a primary sense. It can can help you or lead you to contemplate our Atma, that is Vyojita, that is unconnected to anything. So word Sakshi also has to drop ultimately and leaving, but hopefully by now your mind is settled enough that when the word is Sakshi is used and you contemplate, then even Sakshitva, because there is no Sakshya. Point is, if Avasthatra is Sakshi, the one that is witness of the three Avasthas is devoid of the Avasthas. So when the Upadi of Avastha is not there, then what is Sakshi? Sakshi also is only with reference to Sakshya. You can call Atma a witness. When we refer to what is witness, when what is witnessed is not there, witness also is not there. So when in the Sakshi the witnessed is given up, then what remains? That is how the Lakshyartha. So what Sakshi also reveals the self by not Vachyartha, Lakshyartha. Lakshidam Shuddham Atmanam iha means Vedanta, in the Vedanta Siddhanta, Parampadam, Paramatmanam, Brahma Vidyatri Yojana. So may you know Atma to be Parampadam, the ultimate pada, the ultimate goal, the ultimate truth, which is Paramatma, which is Param Brahma. So know Atma to be Param Brahma, that's what it is. So it is by Lakshana Vritti that you realize that Atma and Param Brahma are one alone. Evam Atma Tattva Avadharite, in this manner, when the Atma Tattva, the truth of the self, is ascertained, avadharitam, then what you should do? Punaha avastha. So when you have now thus ascertained that Atma has nothing to do with avasthatraya, it is by letting go any association of Atma with avasthatraya that you can know the true nature of yourself. When this avadharana, when this ascertainment has taken place in your mind, Punaha avasthatra abhimanam na kuryat, then you should no more identify with, or you should not judge yourself. What is meant by identification is that we judge ourselves. Identity with the body means I judge myself based on the body. Or avasthatra, so I judge myself awake or dreamer, etc. Na kuryat, don't do that. So dushtamiti. So the verse 33 says, Dushtam hitva smrutim tasmin sarvagrasya tamastyajet sarvadrugyotisha yuktah dinakrucharvaram yatha. So words again, suggestive words are used for the three avasthas. Drushtam for darshanam, jagrat. Smrutim for memory, the dream. Tamaha for ignorance, the deep sleep. So hitva, giving up these three, meaning giving up the identification with these three, giving up the habit of judging yourself based on these three. So says Tika Drushtam Jagaritam Tad Hitva. So give up, recognize, give us thinking of yourself as a Jagrat, as a waker. Stop taking yourself to be a waker or a drashta. So drashta, shrota, manta. Drashta stands for all the kind of roles that you play. So they're all roles. Drashta, the seer, also is a role when you identify or function through the organ of seeing. Shrota is another role when you identify with the upadhi of the organ of hearing. So manta, this is traditional drashta, shrota, because drashtavya, shrotavya, mantavya. That is why drashta, shrota, manta appear everywhere. That you are a thinker. That is when you again see yourself through the prism of thought. Then you are a thinker. Of sight, then you are a seer. Of sound, then you are a hearer. So this is abhimanam. The notion about myself that I am a drashta, shrota, manta is the result of abhimanam, identification with the corresponding upadhi or corresponding aspect of my vesha. That's how my conclusion about myself. So this, don't do this. Recognize that drashta, shrota, manta is a result of identification. Don't do that. So abhimanam tyaktva iti ekaika kriya uparaktadaya atma abhimanam tyaktva. So ekaika kriya. So drashti, seeing, hearing, thinking, individual kriyas are there. And so kriya uparaktadaya. So identify the kriya. Uparaga means colored, being colored by this kriya. In prism, when different colors, then the prism is colored by it. So Atma, being ever pure, is colored by all these activities. So when the seeing is taking place, then Atma, upon Atma, the color of seer happens. When hearing takes place, Atma is colored by that and the hearer appears in Atma. So recognize that hearer doesn't belong to crystal, that is Atma, belongs to the organ of hearing. So that's how kriya uparaktataya. There is automatically an identification of the kriya, and that's how the self-judgment of the drashta, shrota, manta. Abhimanam tyaktva, give up that identity, notion about yourself. Meaning, darshanadi avasthayapi nirvisheshameva atmanam manvita iti. So even when you are seeing, hearing, thinking, doing anything, at that time also, this is being mindful. No, this is the extreme mindfulness about your own self. Because uparaktata, you get so absorbed in that color, get so absorbed in this conclusion that I am a manta, seer, hearer, thinker, and therefore I forget. I overlook or I forget about my own self. Because of my preoccupation with looking upon myself as a drashta, shrota, manta, I become unaware of as though my true self. So don't do that. Let darshanam take place, shravanam take place, mananam take place. That time don't forget yourself. Nirvishesham atmanam anvita. In spite of all that, may you contemplate upon the Atma, the true self. There is nirvishesham, devoid of all the visheshas or attributes. So this is dushtam hitva. This is a way to give up the notion that I am a waker. Then smrutim hitva, tasmin dushtayate smrutim hitva. So word smriti is used for swapna because the dream is based on the samskaras which are acquired from the experience of the waking. Swapnam hitva samskar dvarakatva samskaradvarakatvat swapneva ya smriti uchyate. So for the swapna of the dream, the author uses the word smriti because smriti also is a result of the samskara of jagrat and swapna also is the result of samskara of jagrat. Therefore, both of them being the product of samskara, this smriti word is used for swapna. So what is smriti in swapna? Where is the smriti? How do you say the swapna is smriti? Says, Ham swapne devha bhuvam vyagrava bhuvam. Amazing swapnas. So, I became a devata in the dream, I became a tiger in the dream, depending upon how your experience are in the waking state. Tat abhimanam hitva. So don't look upon yourself as who became a tiger or you became a devata. There is nothing but smriti and you are devoid of that. Then, when you think of your dream experiences, how should you think? Drusyasya savasanasya manasa vikara asau. This devatvam, vyagratvam, this is what? Savasanasya manasa vikara. It is nothing but the manifestation of mind. Why does the mind appear as a devata? Savasanasya, the mind which possesses the vasana of the devata, which you may have experienced in the waking state. Or a tiger, which you may experience in the waking state. So mind possessing those samskaras then results into an experience called dream. So remind yourself of this. So manasa vikarasau na atmanaha. Even though you declare, I became a devata, you did not become devata, the devataness belonged to the mind and not to you. I became a tiger. No, the tigerness belonged to the mind, which form the mind assumed because of the samskara, the impressions that it accumulated in the waking state. Iti asangatam atmana anusandadhita. That atma is asanga. And so, this is how kriya uparakta abhimana in waking, asangata, that you are unconnected. And therefore, recognize, remember, you remind yourself the asangata of you, this all belongs to the mind, then you have nothing to do with that. Tata tama tyajet, sushuptim tyajet. You have this sushupti. Tamaha means darkness, sushupti is darkness, so tama stands for sushupti. And there is an interesting word there. Tasmin sarvagrascha. That word is sarvagras. Looks like sarvagaha, graha, sarvagaha, sarvagraha. What is sarvagras is the word there. The sakara becomes a visarga. So if you try to look at the word sarvagraha, you'll never find something. What is sarvagraha? Sarvagraha means the nominative singular of sarvagraha. No, the word is sarvagras. And so, tamasaha sarvagras iti sarvam grasati iti sarvagraha. So, santamidam padam. So, Tikakara helps us. Says santam. Santam means the word is sarvagras. And even though the visarga, sakara becomes visarga by the sandhi rule, the original word is sarvagras. Sarvam grasati is sarvagras. That is a neuter word. That's why it remains unchanged. So sarvagraha, sarvagras, so sarvagrasau, etc. Sarvagrase, rather, sarvagrasani. So that's how it will be. But then sarvagras is the nominative singular of the neuter word sarvagras. Sarvam grasati iti sarvagras. Sushupteya api avasakataya alupta prakaso. The one that you are aware of, even the darkness. Sushupti. Sushupteya api avasakataya alupta prakaso bhavaya atma. You are not dark. You are not ignorant. You are not lost. So Indra thought that everybody, I am lost in the deep sleep state. I don't know myself, I don't know anything else, and therefore this fellow is lost. Nam bhogyam pasya. That is not right. Says, no. Even that darkness or that the individuality was lost. The ahankara is lost in a deep sleep state, but even when ahankara is lost, the absence of ahankara also is eliminated because you know that I am not there, I was not there. Thus in the waking and dream states, Atma eliminates the bhava. The being in deep sleep, abhava. So mind is there in waking and dream, Atma eliminates. Mind is not there in the deep sleep state, mind eliminates absence of mind also, absence of ahankara. Sushupte api avabhasakadaya. Because Atma is avabhasaka, eliminated even of sushupti also. Alupta. So the prakasha of the mind is gone. But that which eliminates the absence of darkness of the mind is of the nature of prakasha. Therefore Atma is alupta prakasha. Like the lamp in the theatre, it eliminates also absence of all the audience and everything. It eliminates when they are there also. So just as the lamp in the theatre is alupta prakasha, in this the prakasha never comes to cessation. So also Atma is also unceasing light of consciousness. Natu moodaha, don't think that in deep sleep you are moodaha, or in waking dream you are jnanavan. That moodatvam, darkness belongs to mind, that jnanam also belongs to mind, and so don't identify with the mind and brand yourself jnanavanaham, I am nowhere, moodaha, I am deluded, I don't know anything. Namanvita. Therefore do not look upon yourself in this way. This is habitually we do this, that's why this is pointed out. When you see, you automatically take your seer. And thus in the dream also, you describe the dream, that's though exactly it happened to me, and deep sleep I did not know anything. No, you are of the nature of knowledge. One who says I did not know anything is ahankara. And one who sees dream also is ahankara. One who sees waking also is ahankara. So there are different states of ahankara. You are simply the illuminator of ahankara in all these three states. And this experience of ahankara also. So Vishwa, Teja, Prajna is ahankara. And the experience is that the world of waking dream, all of this is illuminated by you. Kosu avasthatara tyaktayati. Who is the one who does tyakta, gives up these three avasthas? So we are told to do this. That kriya uparaktataya atma abhimanam tyaktva. In the waking state, do not identify or judge yourself based on kriya that are going on at the level of the speech or organ of action of the mind. The dream also recognizes that what you thought you became was the modification of mind, not modification of Atma. Deep sleep you thought that you are totally muda or deluded or totally lost. No, that being lost also is a state of mind, not you. You are still illumined. So who are you? Kosau avasthataya tyakta. This is how the teacher is teaching us how we should become tyakta, the giver of all the avasthatraya, or judging oneself based on the avasthatraya, these three states which belong to mind. Who is the one who is doing this? So the next one says, Sarvadrik Jyotisha Yukta Dinakrit Sharvaram Yatha. Sarvadrik means what? Sarvasakshi. Again, same words are to be used anyway. So, next line describes Atma in words only. But when you now try to contemplate the word Sarvadrik, by doing what the first line said, what is Dushtam Hitva, Srutim Hitva, Tamas Tyajet, Tamas Tyaktva. When you do that, then Sarvadrik has a different meaning. Although Sarvadrik, Sarvasakshi, Jyotisha Yukta hai, Pratyayatma Jyotisha Yukta hai. that Atma is Saraswatiji, possessed of or endowed with Jyotish or the light of the consciousness. Because Jyotisham Jyotihi, Mundakopanishad says. So, in Bhagavad Gita, this is Upanishad that was Jyotisham Jyotihi. So that is light of all the lights. So it's not this light of the mind. It is the light of the sense organs, or light of the organs of perception, light of organs of action, light of the mind, light of the intellect. Jyotisham Jyotihi, that which illumines all these lights also. Tat Shuddham Jyotisham Jyotihi. So Tat Shuddham Jyotisham Jyotihi, that's how the Mundaka Upanishad says. Yatyat Atma Vido Viduhu, which is known by the knowers of the self. Iti Uktena Brahmana Ekibhuta Ityatah. So Jyotisham Jyotihi, that is the word that you use. Jyotisha Yukta or Jyotisham Jyotihi, what is appreciated or known as Jyoti of the nature of sense organ or mind or the intellect within. You are the Jyoti, illuminator of that also. And therefore, what you are is Nirvishesha consciousness, which is Brahman. So Brahmana Ekibhuta Ityada. So who is the one who is Tyakta? Who is the one who is thus giving up these self-judgments based on the waking, dream, deep sleep state, which habitually create judgment in us, and that's how we see ourselves that way. So now you recognize that habitually identification is taking place. Don't allow that to happen. And therefore now you identify what you truly are, which is what? Jyotisham Jyotish, or the Jyoti of all the Jyoti, illuminator of all of this. And therefore you are Nirvishesha Jyoti, and therefore Nirvishesham Jyoti, you are Brahman. So one who is Brahman, that is the one who is doing this de-identification, or giving up the identification with waking, dream, deep sleep, is a Jyoti, that is Brahman. And that's the one who is asked to give up these things because that's what you are. Dinakarat Sharvanam Yatha, the example is given. Dinakarat, Dinam Karodi, Savita means sun. So Dinakarat or Dinakara means sun. Yatha Dinakarat Sharvaram Tamaha. So Tyaktva Savita so Sharvaram. Sharvaryam Bhavam Sharvaram. Sharvari means night. Sharvaryam, seventh case. So Sharvaryam Bhavam Sharvaram. So that is obtains at night. So nocturnal darkness in English. Tamaha. Sharvam Tamaha, the nocturnal darkness. So what does it do? So Sarvam Grasati iti Sarvagras. So the sun also is Sarvagras. How do we do that? So Sharvaram Tama Swatejasa Grasitva. So sun also swallows the night, the nocturnal darkness by his own light. No action is needed here, but then by very light the sun is, it swallows the dark nocturnal darkness. So also Atma, the very consciousness also swallows all the darkness of the Kartrutvam, etc. So here the reason why these kind of examples are given is to help us contemplate. So look at the sun, how sun is of the nature of light, how by its being there itself, it just absorbs or swallows or destroys the nocturnal darkness. So you know also that you are the sun of consciousness, and that by yourself, by just being what you are also destroying, swallowing all the darkness and the products of darkness. So yatha savita swatejasa sharvaram tamaha grasitva nistamaskah eva vatishtade. Nistamaskah, the one with the word of tamas. And so how the sun remains, sun who is of the nature of light, remains totally devoid of darkness by swallowing or destroying the darkness by its very light. Tatha avastha vikara hetu ajnanam brahmana jyotisha abhivuya. Similarly, also, this is what you should do. Avastha vikara hetu ajnanam. So here the tamas is ajnanam, the darkness is ignorance. What does ignorance do? Avasthatraya hetu. The state of waking, dream, deep sleep, all of these are products of ignorance. They are all states of mind. And mind itself is a product of ignorance. So ignorance has created the whole universe, consisting of waking, dream, deep sleep, gross, subtle, causal. And therefore, even though we see light here, even this also is product of ajnanam only. So see, what is seen is ignorance, ajnanam, product of ignorance. Seeing is product of ignorance, seer also, all this seer, seen, seeing, all of these are products of ignorance. So by the knowledge, recognize that these don't exist in you. So avastha, vikara hetu, ajnanam. Ignorance of self is a hetu, cause of the self, as though assuming these different states, the self becoming a waker, self becoming a dreamer. That is because of identifying with the waking upadhi, dream upadhi. So, Brahmana, remind yourself that your notion that drashta, shrota, manta, etc. are the result of the identification with what ignorance has created. So, Brahmana Jyotisha Abhibhuya. So, this Vikara Hetu Ajnanam. So, what we see is Vikara. What we experience is the waking world and the waker, dream world and the dreamer, etc. All of this is the product of ignorance. So, by the knowledge, by not identifying and then resolving completely, because if you don't give reality, it doesn't remain there. All these things will not remain, even in your perception, if you do not give reality. So, Brahmana, Jyotisha, Abhibhuya, Advyana Svabhava Tishthate. And thus, this Tyakta, this aspirant, in this manner, by giving up, meaning, number one, giving up reality, giving up identity, and totally focusing upon the self, giving up in their existence also. Brahmana, Jyotisha, Abhibhuya, all this tamas of waking, dream, deep sleep is overcome or overpowered by the light of Brahman, which is consciousness. Then there is nothing now to disturb or create a sense of limitation in Atma or in consciousness. As long as the things are there, waking, dream, deep sleep, the habitual, number one, habitually they are taken as real. Number two, habitual identification takes place. Number three, habitual self-judgment takes place. And so, recognize all of these are due to ignorance. And there, advyana svabhava tishthate, whatever, advayam, there is no dvayam. What is thought to be dvayam or the second one or something real different from me, no more remains. Where advayam is there is no, it is boundlessness. With boundlessness, that's called Atma, Ananda. Avatishthate ityartha. So the purpose of discussing all of this as to how the avasthatraya and distinguishing Atma from the avasthatraya and recognizing unconnection or disconnection of Atma with avasthatraya. That is, even Sakshi also is something that is relative. What it is only consciousness, and you own up your nature of consciousness by overcoming the habit. It's not that Atma becomes waker or dreamer. Habitually you identify and then conclude you are a waker, dreamer, seer, hearer, thinker. So recognize these habits born of ignorance and make yourself free. Become alert, aware of your own true self. And that's how the impact that these things have because they are given reality, because you identify with them, that is what they will impact upon you. When you recognize this aspect, they will no more impact you, then you can remain what you are and abide in your own true nature. That's what the teacher is teaching here through these verses. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.